4th of June of 1938. I thought today would be a normal day. How wrong I was. I woke up as normally. It was Saturday, so my little brother and I went out to play in the park in front of my new house. We moved to this new house a month ago. There were lots of youths there. My mom had told me that all neighborhoods for Jews, like the one in which we were, are called ghettos. I was fine with that. I liked it. We were playing as usually, but we started hearing screams. We got scared. I took my brother's hand and we returned home as fast as we could. Everything was chaotic everywhere in the neighborhood. At home, there were two soldiers. They were dressed up with a gray uniform. I was frightened. They seemed to be mad. My mom was on her knees, crying devastated without knowing what to do, and one of the soldiers was holding my father. My brother looked at me with tears in his eyes. We were totally scared and we couldn't understand what was happening. He held onto my leg and I put one of my hands over his head. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I had to protect him. The soldiers were very angry. They were shouting at us. The one that wasn't holding my father got closer to us and he looked at my little brother. "How old is he?" he asked in a rude way. "He's only 5. Leave him alone," shouted my mother with her eyes full of tears and her broken voice. "He's useless," he said right before shooting my brother in the head. I stopped feeling his hand on my leg. My world fell apart. I saw his body lying on the ground with a hole bleeding from his head. The tears rapidly appeared in my eyes. I started shouting, screaming. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. I heard my mom crying, devastated. My father started to shout as well. I fell onto my knees and I hugged his body. My hands were fully covered with his blood, but at that moment I didn't care. I was devastated. I didn't care about what happened around me. I just wanted my brother back with me, but that was impossible. The soldiers took my parents out of the house and put them in a large van, I think. I couldn't see properly with all the tears in my eyes. They took me just after into the same van. It was totally crowded. I started to have a headache. I couldn't breathe properly there. Everything smelled horrible, and the image of my brother's body didn't disappear from my mind. I'm not sure how long we stayed in that vehicle. Finally, we reached our destination. We were at the train station. I was scared, but right after we got out of the van, I hugged my mom as strongly as I could. My father found us just later. We were almost all together. We just needed my little brother. Another soldier appeared. He took us into one of the coaches of the train. It was also crowded. I could see people crying, shouting, heartbroken about the situation. I took my mom's hand and I didn't let her go. I was completely frightened. I didn't know what was happening. My mom was still crying, and my father was trying to console her, but without results. After all the things that happened that day, I fell asleep. I woke up when the train stopped. Everything was quiet. I felt scared. It was really dark there. But suddenly, a soldier opened the door of the coach. A bright light entered. Soldiers started shouting at us. We had to move. We had to go outside of the coach rapidly. When I went out, I saw millions of people going out from the same train. Lots of people with broken expressions, with horrible stories like ours. I didn't let my mom go. I was with her. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted the three of us to be together. I was totally frightened. I didn't know what to do, what to think. I didn't know why I was there. My mom tried to console me, but that was impossible. I was heartbroken. Out of the blue, three new soldiers appeared. These ones weren't as big as the other two, but they also seemed to be mad. They started shouting at us, and people started to move. I couldn't hear what they said properly, but my parents and I followed the rest of the people. There were lots of citizens crying, and that image scared me even more. We were walking in a queue, but people stopped. I asked my parents why we had stopped. They told me that now we were doing the checking. I still didn't know where we were. They explained to me that we were going to start a new adventure with a lot of new people and that we were going to be together. I tried to look happy with that explanation, just to console them. But deep down, I knew that something was going wrong. I decided to stop asking. We waited like for an hour and a half in the queue. Next to us, some meters away, there was another queue. In that one, there were older people with little babies. I didn't know why we weren't all together, but I didn't think about that too much. We finally reached a little house with a really big door. There was a soldier seated in front of a table with lots of papers. My parents, me, and some others in the queue finally entered. We had to take off all our clothes and leave everything behind. They told us to wear something similar to striped pajamas. They were comfortable, but they were really horrible. They smelled really bad. After a ride, we got closer to the man at the table. He seemed to be really rude. His face looked like he was angry. I was scared of him talking to me. The soldier gave us a long number in a paper. Then we had to go to another room. In that room, everything felt horrible. I heard people screaming and I got frightened. I hugged my mom. We were waiting for our turn to come, but when it finally arrived, they took off my shirt. One soldier held me, while the other was heaving needles in my chest. It was horrible. I felt every single time the needle touched my skin. I felt it like fire in my body. I screamed and shouted, but they didn't stop. At the end, I looked at my chest. 3, 4, 6, 7. That was my number. I was that number. I didn't stop crying. That tattoo was still hurting me, and I didn't know what to do apart from crying. I kept crying until a big soldier threatened to kill me. I stopped just because I was frightened. Then they took us to another place. There were lots of stairs and they were cutting people's hair. I didn't want to. I started crying again, but I tried to hide it. Despite that, I felt tears running down my face. A soldier held me and seated me in a chair, while I desperately tried to set me free. Impossible. They started shaving my head, and I felt tears falling from my eyes. I loved my hair, and letting it go hurted me so much. After that horrible situation, I hugged my mom. Some soldiers took my father apart. My mom started to shout, but they didn't pay attention to her. Instead, another soldier started hitting her. I told them to stop. I shouted at them. I was scared. I thought she was going to die. I screamed as loud as I could. They didn't care. When they stopped, my mom was really hard, but she smiled at me. I think she was trying not to scare me with that situation, but she was bleeding, and I knew that something wrong was happening. That smile didn't fix anything. I thought I was going with my mom, but I was wrong. Soldiers divided the people there into two different groups. I was hugging my mom, but a man shouted to me and obliged me to go to another group. I was scared. I didn't know how to react. I didn't want to be alone, but I had to follow the instruction because I didn't want them to hurt me. We arrived at a huge room. Tears were falling from my eyes secretly. There were lots of people there, more than 1,000. The soldiers left us there and went out. When I saw all those people, I realized I didn't have a bed to sleep in, so I laid on the floor. It was cold, dirty. It was really uncomfortable, but I didn't have other option. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to be there. I have just this diary. I will try to write as much as I can. 5th of June of 1938. Last night, I couldn't sleep properly, not only because I was sleeping on the floor, but also because I could only think about how much I missed my family. Today, we woke up really early when a soldier entered shouting in the room. He looked really angry, and he talked to us in a rude way. I got scared, and I stood up as fast as I could. I was still a little bit sleepy, but with all those screams, I moved fast. First of all, they took us to an enormous dining room. We sat on some chairs on huge tables. I felt so small inside that big room. They gave us just a glass of cold water. I was really hungry, and that wasn't enough. But I couldn't say anything. I was scared of them. I didn't want them to harm me because I was complaining. That water was disgusting, and we had just 5 minutes to finish. I can't describe how I was feeling. I was tense, and the soldier's face didn't help. They looked like they were mad or angry. The rest of the prisoners seemed to be sad, devastated, tired, heartbroken. It was then when I realized how hard my life was going to be since then. My work started. I was in charge of classifying people's belongings in a place called Canada. I arrived in an enormous room with just some little windows. It smelled horrible. There were lots of people and a huge pile of clothes. They explained to me and the rest of the new people our task. I had to separate clothes depending on their size and their condition. Some soldiers were paying close attention to what I was doing. At the beginning, I felt really nervous and stressed with lot of tension in my body. I couldn't do anything else that didn't have to do with the job of classifying clothes. I found trousers, t-shirts, jumpers, shoes, and I had to register them to see if there were any belongings inside. A man near me started to feel dizzy. He fell down and soldiers took him away. Everyone got nervous. Prisoners' faces changed. They started to look terrified, and I understood what was happening. They were taking him to kill him. I got scared, and due to that feeling, I started to work in a robotic way without stopping. I didn't know what I was doing because my movements were automatic. But I didn't stop because I was remembering when my mom was hurt. I got really tired after some hours working there. But when the sun was shining high in the sky, soldiers called us. We went again to that horrible dining room. I was exhausted, so I expected a huge amount of food to recover my strength. But I had just a little of what I thought was dirty water. It was supposed to be soup, but it was disgusting. After finishing, I was still starving, even though they forced me to work again. They shouted at me to the toe. I felt humiliated. I continued working in the same place for the whole afternoon. My hands hurt due to the huge amount of hours I had worked. When the afternoon was over, they called us to eat again, but they just gave us a small piece of bread. This day's food was so scarce, but night finally arrived, and after doing the last call, we went to our rooms. Today was a really difficult day. Lots of new things, of information about the place I am living in. I didn't see my mother. I hope she's okay. After thinking about my whole day, I can't stop crying. I am lying on a small piece of floor. I have to sleep, and I am trying not to think a lot about it. 6th of June of 1938. Yesterday was a hard day. Before the night arrived, I was too scared to talk with anyone. But once I was about to sleep, a girl, more or less of my age, came to talk with me. She was called Ada, and she told me her story. The soldiers took her family and they sent them to different concentration camps. She hadn't seen her family ever since. She has been living here for 6 months already. She's extremely skinny. I understand it is due to the small amount of food they give us. We continued talking and we finally became friends. She was sleeping at the top of a bank with a woman, but she wanted me to sleep with her. During the morning, after the call and the breakfast, we continued working as yesterday. Ada works in the same section as me, in the same room. We can talk, but just knowing that she's there makes me feel better. The day continued as bad as yesterday. 24th of June of 1938. Today is my 20th day here. Every day I feel more tired and less strong. I think it's due to the small amount of food I eat. I can see my bones. My body is little by little looking similar to Ada's. I am scared about that. She sometimes looks so bad. However, my relationship with her is getting better every day. We are becoming close friends, although we can only talk when we are in the barracks. The woman that was sleeping with us has disappeared. We both sleep in the same bed, just us. That is the only good part of being there. Her. 26th of June of 1938. What a horrible day. We woke up as normally, with a soldier shouting at us. When I opened my eyes, I looked at Ada. She wasn't moving. I tried to wake her up, but her body was cold and rigid. I feared the worst. She was dead. Tears started to fall from my eyes. She was the only reason I had to continue being happy, to continue being alive. My world fell apart. I didn't know what to do. The soldier started to shout at me even more, so I had to move even faster, but my body and my mind were still in a complete shock. Today was one of the worst. I had to do my daily tasks as if nothing had happened. It was horrible. Every time I wanted to scream, shout, cry, but I wasn't allowed to do it. I feel empty without her presence, her smiles, my eyes meeting hers. It was a long day. Now that the night has arrived and I find myself alone in the bed I used to share with her, I can't do anything but cry. 2nd of July of 1938. It has been almost a month since I arrived here and 6 days since Ada's death. I am devastated. My heart hurts. Days without her are horrible, and nights feel empty. Every single thing reminds me of her, and that is killing me. I miss her so much. Every thought of my body misses her, and my tears that night are proof of it. I have been having nightmares about that day, that morning since she died. They keep me awake. 14th of July of 1938. It is impossible for me to move on. I am heartbroken. I feel every single bone aching. I feel weak. My hands shake at every moment. I can't speak with anyone because my voice shudders. I know someday I'm going to fail. I am afraid that can happen to me. 21st February 2025. I have just discovered this diary. There is nothing written after the 14th of July. This little girl probably failed with some of her tasks due to the tiredness, and the soldiers killed her. It was devastating reading it. Some pages were stained with tears. That broke my heart. This story should be known. That's why I will send it in some newspaper, for everyone to see the terrible things that have been doing to kids in a concentration camp.